All right, welcome. This will be a quick recap from what we did on class on Friday since the recording didn't work. But what we want to do is just kind of continue this question about here, if we're looking at how the markets change day to day, if we just kind of, you can think about like randomly participating or, going in, going out, it's about a 50-50 chance. And then what we want to see, the next question to ask is, what happens if we have a longer exposure, longer time invested? We're hoping that that longer time will result in a higher likelihood or a higher probability that your money will go up. So to do this, and then you can think about this too, like some other questions that you might have would be, we're ignoring the difference, like what's the size of the change, we're ignoring that, we're just seeing if it goes up and down. And so that's another question that we'll have to ask later on. But this case is just, simplifying it if it's up and down. So what we'll do next is we're going to take, essentially, we're going to make another pivot table and we're going to summarize over a particular year. And so we'll do that really quick. Is if we do, we'll insert a new pivot table. We know we made one on this sheet already. And then the range for our pivot table, in this case, I'll select the range. We'll do date, year, month, day, and then the adjusted S&P 500. We don't need the other day-to-day differences in this case. So I'm just going to select those, click OK, and we can do a new sheet here. You can see, we did this in class, so you can already see I have one, but we'll do a brand new sheet to get some new data here with what we're looking. Danny, will you let Mom in?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so next step is to create our pivot table that we're working with here. And to do that, we're going to summarize by year. So we'll add years that we have here. Okay, and this is good. And now we got to figure out our how we want to summarize these. And it's just kind of a we'll pick. It's not the easiest way to summarize, but what we'll do is we'll just kind of try to average over the beginning prices for the month for January for each year that we have. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and we'll add a column here, and we'll add a column for the month. And when we do that, we know we're getting all 12 months that we have. And then what I don't want all 12 months here. I really just want to focus. I'm trying to get a proxy for the, January that we're looking at. So I'm going to add a filter in this case that we have. So we'll add a filter and we'll filter by month. And then when we have this, it's got all the items, but we can clear that, and we're just going to, once it's cleared, we don't want all of them, we'll select the first one and click OK. So what we were able to do there is just, pick January of each year, and then we'll go ahead and add our values, and we'll have to make an adjustment there as well. All right, so we're good. We've got one column that just represents January for each month, and now let's add our values here, and now we can put the adjusted value. Not so happy about the grand total column, totally unnecessary, but it's just there. We'll just ignore it. It's not important. What we have here then too is that, we've got essentially our values here for January, and the one issue we just have to check is that currently what it's doing is adding up, it's summing up the total prices of that adjusted S&P 500 for the whole month of January, and that's not a really good measure for what we're looking at. So we'll change that. Just keep that in mind, as you do this, does that give us a relevant or something we can use, and not in this case. So we'll change that, and what we'll use is our average price for the month. So by changing that to average, now it's averaging over January prices for the S&P 500 over our times. Now we're getting closer to being able to answer our question, like what happens in this case. So what we'll look at here, is going to be something like this. We're going to take our values here, and instead we're going to make our differences, but in this case we can say these are going to be year-to-year differences. That we have. And let's just make this a little bit bigger here so we can see it. And our year-to-year difference, make one slight adjustment here. And that year-to-year difference that we have is going to be just same like we did last time. It was day-to-day difference, but in this case we're going to just take the difference year-to-year of average prices to get a value here. So we'll take the newer year and subtract off the older year. All right, once you have that, go ahead, autofill. And then we'll create another column here, up, down. And this is going to be, actually, I think what we showed was, because we've done this once already, we don't have to redo that function. If you go back to your first sheet and check your up, down equation that you have here, we can copy it. It's going to be the same. It's exactly the same. So if I come back here, I can paste that in. Go ahead and make this column a little bit bigger. So you don't have to redo that. Since it's the same function, we can copy and paste it. It's got the same like reference right next to it, and then we can go ahead and auto-complete that. And go ahead and do this too. Delete that last row. The grand total, we don't care about too much. And then the next thing, I'm going to select our column of up, down that we have right here, and we're going to do our pivot table again. All right, I'll keep this pivot table in this sheet here. I'm just going to try to find a place, for it. Like up here, any place is probably fine. We just use that one column, the up and down, since that's all we're working with here. Rows, up, down, and then values, up, down. It's the counts. I might change this just so it reorders those, and then change the default to percent of grand total. And now we see for a year about a 70% chance of getting it, of your money going up in value. And that's like really just to show it. If you probably already convinced of this, right? But the longer that you hold your money in, the higher the chance that it's going to go up. So this is taking away some of that risk by using a longer period of time to invest that you have here. And this is just the ordinary market too. So if you have time, you're really taking advantage of lower risk, much more likelihood to make money. All right, then our next piece that we have here is going to be, let's just do one more, like what we did in class was, we took this and they said, well, what if we did like 10 years? So if we take a look at our year right here, we'll do the same thing. We'll do like a 10-year difference. All right, and so here I'm going to go to like row 12, and we'll do 10-year difference. Okay, so our 10-year difference that we're looking at here is just going to be, you're going to take in 1972, and then we'll subtract off 1962. And that kind of works. It's the beginning of 1962 and the beginning of 1972, which is like the end of 1971, which is a good 10-year difference. All right, now, if you can think about what do you think the result for this one's going to be, if it's consistent with what we were working at, we think, if you hold your money in a little bit longer, it's probably even more likely that the value is going to go up. So go ahead and we'll auto-complete that difference. And then we're going to make another up-down column here. Make these bigger so we can see. Again, you can just copy any of these. They're not fancy or sophisticated, so it'll get you the same thing. And what's neat about this one too is, like, you'll notice, as you start to see over, a 10-year period that we have here, like, you'll notice there's only a few times where over 10 years from the start to the finish that it's down. So there's just so many more. All right, we'll do our last thing then. I'm going to select this 10-year difference up-down column. Make an adjustment here, delete that last row just because those grand totals don't actually make sense in this kind of analysis that we're doing. All right, selecting that column again, insert a pivot table, existing sheet. I want to put this one kind of close by, maybe like right next to this one right here. We just have our one column selected. All right, same thing, we'll add this, values. Okay, might just clean it up a little bit and change it to a percent. And now we can see, if you want to give this one the 10-year difference. And that one's year to year up here. Result. Now we have almost, can't quite seem to type that out. Now we have almost 89%, 90% chance that if you hold your money in a 10-year period that it'll go up. So hopefully that'll convince you that the longer period of time you have, the less risk that you would lose money. We have ignored, though, a good question is, like, we have ignored the, like, what's the amount of the change? Like, is it, what does that look like? So something for another day we can ask that question.